And the great thing about it is we get to experience the innovation that this industry has to offer, and it really fuels us and keeps us going.
Kiran Chin, thank you for being on my show. How are you?
I'm well, Michael. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
I am very excited to have you. I came in here thinking we're going to talk primarily about consulting and MKA Insights and MBA and finance, but we're going to start off with education because the first thing that you told me is that this is something you're particularly passionate about, and intertwined with your passion now for helping bridge gaps in education. I'd love to tie this also to your personal journey and to understand a little bit about where you come from and sort of the nonlinear career pathway that you took to becoming the CEO of the very successful MKA Insights. So, Kiran, who are you?
Well, I don't know if 20 minutes will suffice for a life history here, but I'll
it never does, but we'll try.
Education is absolutely something I'm extremely passionate about. It's one of my core tenets. It has molded me. It has driven me. It continues to drive me today. I'm a constant learner. I want to absorb as much knowledge as I can. I ask a ton of questions, and that's been me for as long as I can recall. And it really started a very long time ago. When I came to this country, I was about 5 years old. My parents emigrated here from Pakistan. They had 6 children at the time. They had a 7th child that was born in the States. So I'm one of 7.
Where in Pakistan, by the way?
So we moved around a little bit, but Hyderabad and Karachi are kind of the 2 towns that my parents hail from.
Wow.
And, my parents always brought us here and said, there are no opportunities or few opportunities in Pakistan, but in America with an education, you can be anything and do anything you want to be.
The American dream.
American dream, true. And I'm 5 years old. I'm listening to my parents, not fully realizing what that means until, I realized very early on, and I have high logic centers. I think, how does this work? Those are the questions that drive me. And so I would ask, well, why does the grass grow? How does the sun revolve around the earth? And the responses I got were very religious because my parents are very conservative. And they would say, well, God does this and God does that. And I would go, well, I don't know. I think there's another response here. And so I, at a very early age, was 6 years old. By 6 years old, I knew I was born into the wrong family. I was very scientific oriented, wanted to know how the world works. And the responses I was getting wasn't feeding that intellectual curiosity. And I remembered my father said, I brought you here for an education. With an education, you can do anything, be anything. And I held on to that. I believed it. I started accelerating in school. I had just a natural ability. I love academics. I love books. So I accelerated, and, I knew that was my ticket out of there. It wasn't just the religious household that I butted heads with. I grew up, 6, 7 kids in a really impoverished part of town just outside of Philadelphia. We did not have a lot. And I knew that education was my way out of there for multiple reasons. And so I applied myself and, put myself through school and continued to focus on education. And that's allowed me to make the jumps that I have had in my career and allowing me to be where I am today. So education is a core tenet of mine. I truly believe that with education, you can do and be anything you want to be, but you have to believe in it.
Wonderful. Well, I have a few quick questions. So out of the 7 children, where are you? And you're definitely not the youngest, but where are you in the line?
I am the exact middle child. I am the 4th child in the social order.
Wonderful. And your favorite subjects in school?
Oh, well, of course, science and math. So I'm a STEM child growing up. There's order. It's tangible. It's concrete. There's
It's
you can
predictable.
understand it. It's predictable. You know it, right? There's always an answer to it. I always struggled with history and writing, but reading was also a favorite of mine. So I was an absolute bookworm growing up.
Wonderful. Okay, so you go through college, your bachelor's, your master's, and then MBA, and then what's your thinking process? So where do you go from there? Because you both studied finance as a master's, but you've done your also business degree. So what's next for you?
So, wrapping up my finance and business degree, I ended up getting a job out of business school with a life sciences tools company, and ended up doing M&A work for them. And it wasn't what I thought I was going to do, because I graduated in 2009, which was just at the height of the housing bubble bursting. And so there was a flood of financial
Right.
professionals on it. And prior to going to business school, I had a very different career than post business school. So I worked in politics for about 3.5 years. I earned a degree in economics, and it's not the degree that I thought I was going to get. Being a STEM child, I thought I was going to go into some kind of medical field. And unfortunately, that did not work out. The bookworm that was removed from her very conservative household, where we weren't allowed to do very much, transplanted over to Southern California with the beaches and just the beautiful weather. And for the very first time in my life, I experienced life for the very first time. So I don't know if I would take any of the life experiences back. I would certainly go back and tell my younger self to pay more attention to the organic chemistry and the biology books, and maybe try and finish out that scientific degree. But that was not in the cards for me. And I think my life where it is today is just right where it should be. So I think I'm okay. But I thought I was going to be a doctor. That academically was not in the cards for me. I switched focus to be an economics degree. I didn't quite know what to do with that. I was fortunate that at career day at USC, which is my alma mater, I came across a lobbyist. I found myself interviewing for jobs at LA County mayor's office, at the LA County Board of Supervisors offices. And, the do-gooder in me wanted to be a part of something. If it was not in medicine, then maybe it was in politics. And so I started working for a very highly regarded Latina politician in LA County. And it was really tough going, because she had high expectations, and very few people were ever meeting those expectations. But it was such a great learning environment. And I have to tell you, there were a lot of cuts and bruises having worked in that office, but I learned a tremendous amount. But at the end of the day, I realized it was disconnected from my STEM background. I have a passion for the sciences. It didn't feel like what I should be doing. And so I wanted to go back to business school, find
No,
a
but
way
you
to get
spent
back.
but you spent a pretty long time there, right? It wasn't just a month or two.
Right, right. I was there for about 3.5 years.
Wow.
Finished. I had great experiences at the tender age of 21, 22 years old. I was managing a $750 million LAC USC hospital construction
Wow.
project, co-managing that with the urban planning deputy. I was put in leadership roles for urban planning projects, economic redevelopment. So I was, in a way, helping the community and the constituency. It just wasn't what I thought it was going to be, but I did see the impact of the work we were doing. But again, disconnected from the sciences.
Wow.
So it was important for me to go back and feel reconnected to science and math. And so, thinking back to business school, hey, I want to go to business school, use that to leverage into a career in science and math. And again, don't know what that looks like. I just know I'm going to get to the next rung and figure it out when I get there. And when I did,
Wait,
I
so
said,
right
oh,
before you continue to that part, you're at the intersection, you're at a sort of a junction in life, and you're saying, I had a wonderful time here working on these incredible projects, but I feel that my heart is someplace else. My true passion and my progression throughout my career is going to be someplace else. I'm curious about this decision to go to business school. And not, I mean, obviously business school, it's a wonderful experience, but being at university myself, it is a dilemma that a lot of people have, right? Business school, it's not just the financial burden of it, but it's also the time that you spend on it. And a lot of people are wondering what's the right path. And for you, that was your path as you were transitioning careers. Walk me through a little bit about the thought process back then of why you enroll in business school 3.5 years after you're in the market.
Well, for me, it was a journey because I was not very happy in the political role because, again, very disconnected from my core. And so I was trying to find alternative roles, and it just was not working out for me because every conversation or informational discussion I had always came back to the fact that they did not understand how a job in politics and government translated into a job in the private sector or in banking or anything of the sort. And the feedback that I was getting from a lot of the individuals I spoke to said, you know what, maybe you should try to go back to business school and get a degree where you're academically trained in the principles of how a business is run, how businesses operate. And that will allow you to at least get a foot in the door. And at that point, I said, you know what? I'd like to try that. I'm hungry. I'm a hard worker. I'm going to do anything that I can do in order to get my foot in the door, because once I get there, I know I'll be fine. And so that confidence carried me through. The guidance and advice of many people carried me through.
Wow.
And that's how I find myself going to business school.
So now you're running a company, the MKA Insights. Tell me a little bit about what you're trying to do there and how you're now bridging that gap with STEM and your other passions to also helping.
Well, so excuse me, MKA Insights is a management consulting firm, which for those who don't know, and I didn't know, I think I arrived at this point in my life late. It's a consulting firm that works with managers, business leaders, executives, business owners. And the way that I describe it is we like to work with people at the top of the pyramid, helping them solve their toughest business challenges. So do you want to go to market in Europe? Do you want to launch a disruptive new technology? Do you want to expand in Asia Pacific? Those are the kinds of business challenges that people at the top of the company are often faced with. And so those are the kinds of things that we enjoy doing. Now, we also have a very specific focus or industry focus. Coming from the sciences, we love technology. We love science. So we like to stay with the high science, high technology verticals. So we work with clinical diagnostic companies, medical device companies, life sciences tools, biologics manufacturing tools, cell and gene therapy. So those are kind of the verticals that we serve. And again, whatever business challenge that they have, we love taking on. So that's what we're working on as a company. And it stays focused with STEM. And the great thing about it is we get to experience the innovation that this industry has to offer, and it really fuels us and keeps us going. We are a part of some fantastic conversations, whether it's COVID-19 related, whether it's STEM and cell and gene therapy related. And as of late, we've started getting conversations and dialogues with company in the aerospace sector.
Wow.
And so we're really, really excited about the kinds of innovation, the boundary pushing technology and thought that is occurring in the high science, high technology sectors that we serve. So we're really excited about it.
Now, are these long-term engagements, short-term engagements? Just paint me a picture a little bit of what tangible part work that you can do. So I'm coming in, let's say I'm a biologist and I have a company that I'm offering some product, and I also want to now offer it to Europe, not just the United States. So I assume that I would be able to come to you and say, listen, I'm wondering about what is the best way to do this. So I'm having trouble penetrating the market. Maybe you can help me price, or you can help me think through my product better. Are those the types of things people come with?
Exactly. So that is an exact case study that we did or exact engagement that we did. So we work with companies that want to expand into Europe. And so we'll do an evaluation of their current footprint. We'll do our own market research, discovery, look at their capabilities. I mean, we ask a ton of questions, and that goes back to one of the core tenets, which is education. I mean, we can't, in good conscience, put together a plan that says you should do this without knowing as much as we can about the current industry dynamics, the regional dynamics, the company, its strengths and capabilities, its limitations, management challenges and the like. And once we get that holistic picture developed, then we have an iterative discussion with those business leaders and say, hey, we think this is the direction that's right for you guys. Is that in line with what you would like to see happen? And it isn't a plan that we concoct in isolation and say, go do this, and it's completely unrealistic. We do it in partnership with our clients who, need to own the management decisions once we leave, because the whole goal of working with our clients is to enable them and empower them to do this long after we leave, because paying a consultant to be a part of your management team can become extremely expensive. And so we don't want to do that to our clients. We want to have an impact. We want to have a measurable impact. And we want to teach them a few things along the way that they should retain as part of their own business growth journey.
Wow. Okay, that's just incredible. A quick question before we have to wrap up, and I'll ask you the most important question. But how do you retain knowledge within an organization like this? So you said before case study, and then you changed it to an engagement. But it really is, these are case studies that at the end you go to business school and you study these things as case studies about how do you take a certain problem and you tackle it through different directions and you see what the optimal outcome is. But how do you retain that knowledge within an organization? Because these things must be coming up that are reminding you of previous things that happened. And maybe one partner dealt with one problem and another partner is dealing with a similar problem. How does that knowledge retain throughout an organization?
Well, we write everything down. So we like to document what we've done in the past, because one of the very first questions that we ask is, who's done this before? So this is one of the business school 101 questions that you learn on day one when you're doing case study evaluation. You look around the room, you look at your team and go, who's done this before? Who knows something about this? So in order for us to be able to ask that question, we document what our work efforts have been, and then we'll reflect back on prior engagements and use those as a case study to document our new clients' efforts.
That's wonderful. Okay, so 20 minutes go by very, very quickly, but I have to ask the most important question, which is 3 words that you would use to describe yourself.
And you warned me. I know you warned me.
But not enough ahead in advance. So this is not a huge commitment, but I'd still love to know how you think about yourself, or how you would like others to think about you.
So the first one comes to mind fairly easily. I'm a problem solver. Yeah. I like problems. I mean, it can be mine, someone else's, doesn't matter. My brain is constantly on. So I love a good problem. And then the other words to describe me are, I don't know how this is an exact word, but I appreciate brevity. So, make your point, get it across, use as few words as possible. We've all got lots of things to do. So,
right.
Be mindful of your time. And I don't know if there's a third word to describe me. I mean, I am what I am. I guess I'm very honest. I'm very transparent. There's Wonderful. Not a lot of things that I hide, and I pride myself on that because I really stink at lying. And I've learned that lesson a really long time ago. So I'm forced to be honest, and I appreciate that in others as well.
Kiran, thank you very much for the honesty and for sharing your journey. This was wonderful, and I can't wait to share this with the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.